Schools Athletic Association is committed to establishing and developing healthy environments for competition. We ask all spectators to treat the officials and participating teams with
shit, bro. My knees are hurting.
Yep.
For tonight's semifinal, first for the number 4 seed Parents of Blue Ridge School out of St. George, Virginia. They enter tonight's game with a record of 24 wins and 10 losses. Starting at guard, a 6'4" sophomore, number 22, Kobe White. Also at guard, a 6'3" junior, number 1, Cameron Martin. Forward, 6'7" junior, number 44, Shannon Samongo. At guard, 6'2" senior, number 2, Camden Brewer. And at forward, a 6'6" senior, number 11, Byron Stewart. The Barons are coached by Kane. Now the starters for the number 1 seed Panthers of Paul VI Catholic High School out of Chantilly, Virginia. They enter tonight's game with a record of 29 wins and 3 losses. Starting at center, a 6'10" sophomore, number 25, Christian Gerda. At forward, 6'11" junior, number 12, Garrett Sundra. At guard, a 5'11" junior, number 3, Ben Allen. At guard, 6'6" junior, number 24, Darren Harris. And at guard, a 6'5" senior, number 5, Deshaun Harris Smith. The Panthers are coached by Glenn Farrell.
And welcome back to the CBG Live Network. If you've been with us all day here at the Visa State Semifinals, if not, if this is your first game here, welcome to the big show. Visa Division I semifinal matchup here featuring the number 1 seed Paul VI Panthers out of Chantilly, Virginia, taking on the number 4 seed Blue Ridge Barons out of St. George, Virginia, just outside of Charlottesville. And the opening tip is controlled by PVI. PVI nationally ranked throughout the year. As Darren Harris comes off the screen, no good, but just took a loss in a heartbreaking loss, the WCAC championship to St. John's, one of the best games I've seen all year. And the Barons looking to slay the Giants here. The Barons in their first year of Division I play, they won 6 of 8 or something like that of the last 8 Division II championships. As that's a steal there for PVI up ahead. Ben Hammond is going to find Christian Big Country Gerdak. And Gerdak throws it down with 2 hands. And Deshaun Harris-Smith, big part of that play there, the senior Maryland Terrapin commit, number 5. He was the WCAC Player of the Year. He was an honorable mention Naismith All-American. And an absolute junkyard dog on the defensive end. Power guard on the offensive end. Fun to watch. As Blue Ridge into their set here, DeArmid Stewart down the lane. Can't get it to go. There's Shannon Semengo, the junior, with the putback. And Semengo maybe giving up some height on the offensive end. Well, on both ends, but he's going to fight in the paint with the biggest of them. And right there, the height difference made a difference as Gerdak was able to go over the top, keep that play alive, and Ben Hammond ends up with it and the finish. From the corner, the 3-ball good there by Colby White, the 6'3" sophomore out of Buckingham. And stepping in and taking that charge is Semengo.
Foul will be called on number 3, Ben Hammond, PVI. That'll be his first.
Excuse me, that charge was taken by DeArmid Stewart. And here comes we got to give it up to him. He came late, but yeah. I said, it's Alex. He's going to call the game with me. He was supposed to come earlier. My bad, Hams. Yeah, that's cool. How you doing? Good. How are you? Good. And very happy to be joined by a Richmond Hoops legend himself, my little brother Alex Petrie. Petrie, what's up, my man?
What's going on? Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we are sad to kick Hams off, but he had a great first run here today. We were happy to have him. And now we got the man, the myth, the legend, Alex Petrie. And Petrie, heads up here. You know, you got 2 heavyweight powerhouses here in Virginia hoops. That's a steal there. Darren Harris gets it poked away by Cam Martin, and then up ahead Camden Brewer thought about the 3. He's going to attack and gets it knocked away.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with these teams, but I've heard quite a bit about Paul VI. Obviously, is coming in as one of the top teams in the country, and so I think in a game like this, if you're Blue Ridge, you can kind of use that hype against them, in the sense that everyone's expecting them to take care of you, so you really have nothing to lose. So I think, look for Blue Ridge. I know they're well coached, and I know they probably have some talented guys to come in and swing hard and with nothing to lose.
Yeah, so PVI actually, I was saying earlier, they lost a heartbreaker in the WCAC championship to St. John's, one of their rivals. I mean, it was one of the best games I watched all season, came down to the wire. And St. John's just made one more play than PVI. But, they were riding such a high ship all year. They lost 1 game in December to Columbus out of Florida, which is a nationally ranked team. And then come the last 2 weeks, they've lost 2 very close games to D.C. area teams, which I think has kind of reshaped their focus as far as this, and if they're able to get into Geico, because they're considered one of the teams for maybe a Geico National Championship run, I think that those losses might actually help them down the stretch with that, as that's off the mark there for Deshaun Harris-Smith.
That's interesting, though, because a lot of times I think when you think about teams that talented, you can almost become jaded by your own talent, and sometimes you need those losses to refocus you, like you said. We'll see how they come out here.
Absolutely. It's Darren Harris off the mark there. Number 24, Darren Harris, top 50 player in the country. Already committed to Duke, and you'll love him. Once he gets it going, man, that guy's one of the best shooters you will see. And here's Camden Brewer handling it. We've got a whistle. And I think blood. Blood. So Christian Gerdak has to check out of the game. Ben Hammond's going to come out, and checking in is number 13, Jaquan Womack, and number 0, Pat Gongba.
Tell me a little bit about Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge, this is their first year moving up. I said it earlier. First year moving up into D1. They won, 6 of the last 8, I want to say, Division II state championships. I've been trying to make the move for a couple of years, finally do it. It's kind of a new look roster. It took them a little bit to get going. But, as always, they played a very tough schedule. They're, like you said, well coached, fundamentally sound, and they're going to play hard on both ends. A couple of young guards, that's going to be knocked out of bounds. Bodies hitting the deck everywhere. But
do you see that as a point for Paul VI to apply pressure and disrupt Blue Ridge's guards?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that's how they've played all year with a guy like Deshaun Harris-Smith, who's, an absolute junkyard dog defensively. He's your senior leader. Everybody's going to get behind him. So the pressure that they apply on the defensive end and out in transition here on the steal, count it plus the foul for Deshaun Harris-Smith. That's how they're going to play against everybody. And whether it's trapping or if it's just full court man-to-man pressure defense that they bring, they've got great size at almost every position. They have a little guard in Ben Hammond who's on the bench right now at 5'11", but he's the one that gets underneath you, controls your ball handler, and then you've got these 6'5" to 6'7" wings everywhere. They're going to run around, and then you've got multiple 6'10" guys in the back to be able to protect the rim when somebody gets beat. I mean, they're built to play defense. As Deshaun
if they have
Harris
a weakness, what would it be?
I would say probably outside of Harris, number 24, who, like I said, is one of the best shooters in the country. It's probably their outside shooting. Right over here, number 4, Isaiah Abraham. He's a top 30, top 40 2024 prospect as well. He's known more for his dynamic athleticism, his ability to kind of create off the bounce and get downhill. Same with Harris-Smith. And then, their bigs, they're versatile, but, they're not like kind of stretch bigs. So that would probably be the thing, almost running sort of a zone type thing, but making sure that you have an eye out for Harris at all times because he will burn you from deep. But,
So have you seen in the games that they lost, in tight games, that shot making comes to haunt them? Has that been the source of their couple losses, or what caused their couple losses down the stretch?
A little bit. I mean, I think that a lot of it has to do when they lost to Sidwell. I think that it was what we talked about before. Like they were riding so high at that point, that I think that they thought they were pretty much invincible. They were beating that. Sidwell's not a WCAC school, and WCAC up there is known as the best conference, and they've been beating all the WCAC schools by 30, except for a couple of them. And but then the St. John's one, I mean, that's just two teams that really knew each other so well, and it was an absolute dogfight to the end. And I don't neither team shot the ball particularly well. It just kind of came down to who made the play at the end of the game, and St. John's was able to do it. But I mean, yeah, if it comes down to it in a close game, I mean, I think that's going to be what holds them back, but at the same time, they're so good defensively that you're probably not going to shoot very well on them either.
Right.
And Pat Gongba, another junior on this team, off the mark.
How does this Paul VI team compare to some of the ones you've seen previously? Because I know they're a program year in and year out with premier teams. So how does it compare?
This is probably the deepest team and the biggest Paul VI team that I've seen. In the past, they typically have very, very dynamic guards and guys that can, kind of fill it up. They'll run 3 guards at you and do stuff like that. This year, I think that it's a much more of a size and athleticism, and then they just can throw waves at you. So one of their best players is a freshman on this very talented team that's got like 6 nationally ranked kids. He's out, Jordan Smith, and he really grew into a big role for them throughout the season. And I think that him being out kind of also is a little bit kind of thrown them off kilter a little bit toward the end of the year, because they weren't expecting him to play the role he did, and then he was so good for them as just bringing energy off the bench and doing all the little things. And it's hard to get a group of guys that are this talented to play together and play as hard as they do, but they seem to do it. So I would say it's probably the best PVI team that I've seen.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah,
wow.
So Cam Martin misses both of those, and now PVI with it. Here's Deshaun Harris-Smith.
Is he more of a catch-and-shoot guy, or does he get it off the bounce? He's everything.
He's a downhill power attacking guard.
Got you.
Very athletic. Gets in your grill defensively. He's that type of guy. And he's going to catch here the jab in the lane with the floater, no good. Fight for the rebound, and Gongbo with a smart play there to knock it off of Brewer. And that's really going to be a thing if Blue Ridge is going to make a play here, they have to get bodies on these guys every time a shot goes up. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Like, they may not shoot it very well, but there's a good chance they're getting 2 or 3 opportunities out of it because of their size. And Hammond down the lane with the floater. No good, and another
just what you were talking about
opportunity here. And Jaquan Womack, the sophomore, will head to the line. And the other scary thing about this team, really like only one player in their rotation is a senior.
Right.
So,
oh, man.
They have a chance to bring back. And, he is their leader and their alpha, but they're going to bring back a lot of guys in the next year.
Now, for the WCAC, do you see a lot of guys transferring in later in their high school years, or is it mostly guys coming as a freshman and then they do their 4 years throughout?
It's especially at the top programs. It's a little bit of both, but at the top programs, it's typically you're getting them out of 8th grade. Yeah. And you bring them in and you mold them, and they have such an eye for talent up there, and then they have they do such a good job developing their talent. And there's Hammond back tapping them and getting another opportunity here. There's a lot of missed free throws at the beginning of this one, but up there you will have those guys that. So there's some kind of rule up there. I'm not entirely sure of it, but as Harris Smith shoots the floater, no good, and another opportunity here for PVI. It's some kind of rule up there about within. I think it's like Fairfax or Loudoun County or both of those two, and Gongba. Finally, Blue Ridge is able to clear it, and Cam Martin coming downhill. No call, it's going to go out of bounds. But I know that it's some kind of like miles distance from Washington, D.C. If you were to take a kid from a public school and try to get him to transfer to to the WCAC, that kid will have to sit out a year. Now, I'm pretty sure that there's exceptions to the rules, as there is to every rule in life. But you'll get a lot of times like those kids that transfer in late. They come from Fredericksburg or out in like the Winchester area or up north in Maryland, and they may move down or they'll, stay with a kid on the team or something like that. But they have a rule in place for them not to try to poach the public school kids that like blow up, late in their career and just pick them up.
I thought they had like the running clock thing where you can't reclass once you have started your high school career. Like once you hit 9th grade, you got 4 years.
Yes, in the WCAC it is.
Yeah, okay.
Now the IAC and a couple of the ones around them, they allow reclassifications, but the WCAC does not. So
why do you think that is?
I think it's just kind of an old school rule that they don't want to get rid of. I think that they think it keeps it a little bit more competitive, keeps the purity of it. I mean, a lot of the times what it is in the WCAC, a kid will be held back in 8th grade.
Right.
So it's, to me, I don't see that as much of a difference as deciding your junior year that you want to move and, go to a boarding school like a Blue Ridge that allows reclassification. Honestly, it might even be better to do it late. Like early or late, I think, is when it's best to do it, right? If you are after your 4 years, you're like, man, I need another year. But if you're in 8th grade and you're held back, that allows you more time to kind of develop your game before you grow into your body. But, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a thing there. I mean, the TCIS at, Hampton Roads decided that they made a rule like that a few years ago and decided to rescind the rule because all their kids were going to boarding schools instead of just staying at home and playing. But in D.C., they don't seem to have that problem. They're a well-respected conference. And
the best in the country, you think?
I would say it's probably on the East Coast, it's probably between them and the NEPSAC up in New England, but they are a post-grad basketball league. Right. So, you've also got the public school leagues out of Atlanta, Chicago. They're all really good. So that's going to be knocked out of bounds there by Harris. So 10-8, Paul the Sixth in the lead, 42.6 seconds left in the first quarter.
Blue Ridge is hanging tough.
They are.
They're battling.
Absolutely. I can't get over. I really wish we had full stats here so I can see how many free throws have been missed in this first quarter between two of the best teams you're going to see all year. A little bit uncharacteristic of them. That's going to be a turnover.
Now, do you think in a lower scoring game, a sloppier game like this, who do you think that favors?
Typically, I would say the underdog, but with the way that this PVI team is built, I think that they're built to win games like this. Yeah. Like if they were to be, when they play a really good team, because of the way they defend, because of the extra opportunities they can get on the glass, I think that it's kind of favors them. And it's only going to be a matter of time before they start to force some turnovers and get easy ones in transition. So. And Harris from the corner buries the triple. And Darren Harris with his first bucket of the game.
What's his role in the team been?
Knockdown shooter.
Knockdown shooter.
Knockdown shooter. He earlier in the year in a really big game they had, he was 9 of 9 from the field, 7 of 7 from deep or something like that. He really shoots the basketball.
Wow.
So at the end of one here, Paul the Sixth, 13, Blue Ridge 8. And what do you think of the game so far, Petrie?
I think it's been a little sloppy. I think you get to a stage like this, I feel like it takes a quarter. I remember personally when I played on this stage, it took me a quarter to feel it out, and then I kind of asserted myself. So I'm looking here in the second quarter for guys to get back to what they do well. And I feel like, the teams are feeling each other out. If I'm Blue Ridge, I'm liking the position I'm in. I think the end to that quarter was a little tough. You were right there within one possession, and then now it's two possessions. But I like how they battled. I think if I'm Blue Ridge, I'm really emphasizing rebounding. They don't stand a chance if they, give Paul the Sixth second, third, fourth, fifth opportunities on the glass. But that's what I'm saying. How about you?
I mean, I really think if you're Blue Ridge, you're happy with the situation you're in because it could be way worse considering how many extra opportunities they had. I mean, there was that one possession we were talking about. They had 7 or 8 opportunities and still weren't able to convert on it. But, I mean, I think it's the same thing that you said. If I'm Coach Lemke at Blue Ridge, all right, like this quarter's over. We shook the rust off. Let's get to it at this point. We're not going to be scared of them. We've played teams that are, nationally ranked throughout the season just like they have, and we're not going to back down from it. But rust is shooken off at this point. Let's get things going here and make sure we get a body on the big fellas.
Definitely. I think, too, if you're Blue Ridge, you're cutting this game down in slices, Let's get 4 minutes to go. Let's have a target. Next 4 minutes, let's have a target. And I think that makes the game more manageable against, especially a team when you're playing Paul the Six. You let that thing stretch. That's a lot of opportunity for them to go on an 8-0, 10-0, 12-0 run. But if you can maintain that sense of urgency and focus in a short time span, I think that could be beneficial.
100%. I mean, with a 5-point lead right now, and now a 7 as Ben Hammond banks it off the glass there. It's got to be very crucial. Not, hey guys, like we're hanging it. Every possession counts at this point.
Yeah.
For the next 4 minutes, and we reevaluate where we're at there. As Brewer is trapped, and Gerdak gets the tie up. I believe it's going to be Paul the Six basketball.
But Paul the Six here might just strangulate Blue Ridge. I mean, they're suffocating though.
Yeah.
Defensively, so. I mean, at some point, Blue Ridge can be tough on defense, but you're going to have to put that ball in the basket.
Yep. You're going to have to be able to get into your offensive sets.
Yeah.
So Hammond over here working on Brewer, kicks to the corner. Garrett Sundra downhill. And what are we calling here? It's going to be, I think, off of or behind the backboard, so it's going to go back to Blue Ridge.
Question I was going to ask you about Harris do you feel like someone like that, if he goes to another school, let's say he plays for his local public school, he's not just a shooter, he's a guy that is featured, who is can be 25 maybe points a game. And do you feel like, from your experience now doing this for several years, do you feel like that is more beneficial for a guy to see what his full talent is at his local high school, or to fit into a role at a power school like Paul the Six?
Well, I think with a case like Darren Harris, it's Sundra from the corner, no good. I think with a guy like Darren Harris, I mean, either way, you're going to see what he does. As that's a good move there by Cam Martin. Darren Harris, you're right. He could go to his local public high school and probably, be state player of the year. Have the ball in his hands, take all the shots he wants, but in the end, the number one thing you're going to notice is he is 6'6" with one of the quickest releases, effortless range, and very, very consistent from deep. So in a situation like this where he's going to be specialized, that I think is going to get him ready for college, because that's, if he's going to get paid money playing this game of basketball, it's going to be for one thing, and that's how well he shoots the basketball. Now, could he go to a lesser league and, do something else? Yeah, I mean, he could have not committed to Duke. He could have committed to, George Washington or something like that, decided to go there, and they would have let him do a lot more. But for him to get to the top level of basketball for him, it's very clear that he's going to have a role, and it's a very important role, and that's knocking down shots. As a couple baskets there for Garrett Sundra.
You're talking about Darren Harris?
Yes.
Yeah, we're on the same page. That's interesting.
As nice reversal there behind the back to Shannon Semengo. Nice pass there by DeArmond Stewart. And we got a timeout here from Blue Ridge. We'll take a quick timeout too. We'll be right back here on the CBG Live Network. And we are back here out of the timeout. Paul the 6, 22, Blue Ridge 12, just over 5 to play here in the second quarter. And on the cut, Harris is going to be fouled.
Blue Ridge foul, number 22, Colby White.
That's where if you're Blue Ridge, your margin for error is too slim to be giving up flex cuts like that.
Yep.
That is way too easy. No jam of the cut, just not going to get it done.
And with a guy like Coach Lemke, he is not happy about that because he probably preaches that every single day.
I'm sure.
You can't get face cut, can't get flex cut. And out of the timeout to let that happen too, as Harris knocks down both.
See Paul the 6 trying to get after him here.
Yep, as Cam Martin is going to bring it up. Cam Martin from not too far away from where Paul the 6 is located. And stolen away there by Harris. Harris pushing in transition, gets it plus the foul.
That's that next step for guards. I see a lot of them, good speed getting downhill, making a play, rejecting the ball screen, gets in there and just that jump stop or being able to, find people before you get down there. You got to know where your people are at before you, make that play. And so I think I see with high school guards, that's the next step in a lot of their development is being able to kind of anticipate those plays that, he just took off and went. He didn't know who was around. He just saw a play and went. And I think at the next level, it's you make plays that you already know are there.
And Martin on the 15-footer gets it to rattle home. As Deshaun Harris-Smith comes off the ball screen, the hard hedge, and he throws it out of bounds there. A little bit of a miscommunication.
Smaller Blue Ridge guard was the help man on that. I don't know if they had gotten that ball down low, he wasn't going to do a whole lot.
Oh, no. And deflected there. Great hustle by Harris. Bodies hitting the deck. And, this is one of the things that I've been so impressed with this Paul the 6 team from the get-go. Right, with how talented they were. Like, they were talented last year. They brought in a couple more very talented pieces. And the question was, how are they all going to play together? And from day one, they have been unselfish, and they have played extremely hard. And, for something like that, 2 players hitting the deck, it ends up in a foul, but that's what you want to see when you've got all these guys, and everybody holds each other accountable in situations like that. As Camden Brewer working on Isaiah Abraham. They swing it, and Martin from deep, he buries the triple. Cameron Martin has really emerged this year as Blue Ridge's probably top scorer, shot maker. Came over and reclassified to the 2024 class, and a kid that college coaches really should check out. And into the corner. Isaiah Abraham buries it.
Question for you: how much bearing does Martin emerges this year as a high school player? How much bearing does that have for college coaches as opposed to emerging on the AAU scene?
I don't really think. I think either way it works because now his name is going into the AAU scene and going to be seen. Right, he's going to get seen more in summer ball because college coaches are out more during the summer. That's how it is. But, kind of getting your game and your name put out by, guys like me or a college coach or, his coach who's very well connected, that's just going to lead to more and more people going to see him during the summer.
Gotcha.
As that was an offensive foul call. Then we'll go back to Blue Ridge here. We got 2:50 to play in the first half. Camden Brewer downhill. Gets it to go with the left. A little bit of Alex Petrie game right there.
Sometimes you were talking about getting into offense, and sometimes you got all that pressure up top. You just got to break the play off and go make a play.
Absolutely.
I'd like to see that.
And Ben Hammond knocking it down, and that's a good sign for PVI with Abraham and Hammond knocking down triples on consecutive possessions. And slipping it, letting it fly from deep. That's no good for, I don't believe I could see. I think that's 15. That was Connor Horan. And downhill in the finish. Abraham just too fast there.
Do you happen to know roughly about how many state championships Paul VI has won in the last, 10, 15 years? Like,
I'm not sure.
Does it feel like I feel like every time I've been following, they're in the Final Four, without a doubt. But I'm just wondering how many they've actually won.
As Abraham with the follow. I wouldn't know off the top of my head. I don't know if it's maybe in the book here. Nah. But yeah, every year they are right there for it. As that's stolen away. And Abraham's going to leave it Hammond is going to leave it for Deshaun Harris-Smith.
This game's getting away from him.
Like we said, at any point, right,
Yeah.
you got to keep it close. And definitely heading into halftime is not when you want this to open up to a 20-point game here as Levin Smith lets it fly, no good. And a foul is going to be called on the rebound. And Paul VI is in the bonus, so now their best shooter heads to the line to try to continue this run here.
It's interesting. Paul VI is playing with a lot of energy, and you can see Coach Farrello. He's down there pumping his fist, getting hype, and I feel like the team feeds off of that.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a whole lot of energy here in the building. Not some people, but it's mostly, laid back, and he's getting his team. He's like, we could probably beat these guys in our sleep, but we need our fullest effort. And
I think that he does a great job of that. So, I mean, one thing that a lot of people say from up that way is that, when you're in the WCAC, that's the number one thing you play for. And then, your state tournament or whatever comes after that. So, it's hard to kind of stay focused. Yeah. But PVI, from what I've seen of the WCAC teams, is always the most prepared when it comes to, we want both. We want this one, want every championship we can get. And Jaquan Womack buries the triple. And now, at this point, you're just hoping you can get a bucket here for some kind of momentum going into the half if you're Blue Ridge. 44-19, 25 seconds remaining. A back cut from Colby White, and underneath the finish by Connor Horan. And now PVI will have their chance at a final shot here. As Harris-Smith downhill, double pump, gets it to go. So a great end to the first half there for PVI, who heads in up 46-21 over Blue Ridge. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back here, discuss the first half, and then get into the second half and maybe discuss a little bit about the next game coming up as well. Jack Heron here with Alex Petrie on the CBG Live Network. And we're back here. Second half of action. Paul the 6th, the number 1 seed, a top 5 team in the country for most of the year, leading Blue Ridge, number 4 seed, 46-21 at the half. Petrie, first time seeing PVI. What do you think?
I think they are both explosive and a slow burn type too, which is a dangerous combination. They can strangle you over the course of many minutes, and then they can set off the fireworks and go off for that 10, 12-0 run. I think for them it starts on the defensive end, just to see they defend like a top-tier college team. They really do. Their energy, their effort, the second efforts, it's impressive. I mean, you can see right here, look, they're just getting after it. Tough pull-up. They're going to rebound it. Just very solid. Very impressed.
Yep. And up ahead to Garrett Sundra. Sundra coming off a recent visit to Butler. And then back out to Hammond. Ben Hammond. Goes to Deshaun Harris-Smith. He's going to face up here on Cameron Martin. Gets the ball screen going left, hard hedge. He's going to step into it, and that's off the mark. Good defense there by Blue Ridge. As Colby White getting downhill, he's going to rise up. Can't knock it down. And now Hammond out in transition, throws the skip. Extra pass. Look how quick the release is. No good, though, on that one. As they kick up ahead, and Camden Brewer might have stuck his leg out there, but whatever works. It's another old Alex Petrie move. You got to the line about 6 times a game doing that.
I'm not going to lie. Actually, I got to the line, but never doing that. I was not doing that cheese stuff, no. Because I always felt like if I get fouled on a 3, then I should have pump faked it. Like, there's no way I should be shooting it if a guy is flying at me and about to foul me. And, you know, I shot it right in front of my face, too. So
yeah, that you did. As Brewer hits the first.
And plus, you kick out your leg, you might get the free throws, but you also might turn that ankle.
Yeah. And off the mark on the second. The guy in the NBA, I think, does it the most. Not really the kicking, but he leans a lot. I don't know if you've seen Cam Thomas since the Kevin Durant trade when he went crazy. I mean, he's going, whichever way he's going, he's leaning back into you to get that call. As Brewer hits both. I got you. And PVI with it here. Over to Hammond. Hammond on the fall away. Gets it to go.
Paul the 6th does a tremendous job of getting paint touches and multiple paint touches in a possession. They get to that CIAA drive. They will kick it and keep driving and kicking until they get what they want.
And we got a foul here on the floor. And I think one thing that is underrated about that is the spacing that they get out of it. I mean, you know, it's not like someone touches the paint and stays there. They, on the kick, they are moving and relocating back out to the perimeter. And Brewer's going to fire one from the corner. Tough shot, no good. And Harris finds Harris-Smith, and then they're going to go inside. And that's my man, Big Country Gerdak. He is fouled.
He gets that opportunity because of the space that you had just talked about. They are spaced out, and if a guy, big fella's going to post that hard, you see his numbers, you better give it to him because he's not going to work on the other end if you don't.
Yep. And you should have seen him. First time I saw him was going, we live streamed the DMV live period at DeMatha, which has, you know, all of the Maryland and Virginia private schools from up that way. And you see him come out, and they're like, that kid's an 8th grader, like he's going into his 9th grade year. I mean, he has worked on his body. He was massive, man. Like 6'8", probably over 300.
Wow.
As an 8th grader. And I immediately nicknamed him Big Country. And asked the coach of the kid if it was okay. They found it funny, and he's really slimmed down and gotten.
He's getting up and down.
Yeah, and he's surprisingly quick. You know, he can catch and hit you with the spin or the counter. As Hammond hits the floater.
I'm surprised we didn't see the zone look from Blue Ridge a little earlier.
Yep.
But
Call the sixth foul on number 12, Garrett Sundberg.
I mean, I think it's a little bit like, I think the easy thing to say is that you would play zone against Paul VI because, you know, like I said, a lot of these guys aren't known as shooters. Not that they can't make shots, but, you know, you've got Harris, who's known as a shooter, and Sundra's a guy that can knock down shots consistently from deep. Most of these guys are known for their downhill attacking ability, but what you're going to run into a problem with there is on the offensive glass if you run a zone, because you can't just let these big guys run free without having somebody get a body on them, or they're going to kill you on it. And 0 for 2 there from the line.
question for you. In the WCAC, who do you feel like as a program is the top program?
Over the past 15 years, I would say, I mean, I'll say this. Before the last 2 years, it was DeMatha. DeMatha has the most storied program, you know, and then Mike Jones, who coached there for 15 or 18 years or something like that, he got a job at Virginia Tech, and trying to find the right guy to follow him the last couple of years. And I think they've got the right guy now in Mike Jones, who used to be at St. Stephen's St. Agnes and built that program into a powerhouse. But, you know, he's got to get players, and it's his first year, and it's hard to get players in your first year. But, I mean, from that perspective, it's DeMatha, and DeMatha sits at the top by themselves. Over the past decade, you see Gongba throw it down with two hands. Over the past decade, I think that Paul VI has been probably the most successful as far as placing athletes, as far as you know, competing for state championships, for WCAC championships. It's been them and DeMatha. St. John's is always very, very good. They've got a great history. Gonzaga has a great history as well. But I think that it's those four at the top. But like DeMatha, I mean, it goes all the way back to, you know, the 1960s and 70s with Morgan Wooten, where he really turned that into a powerhouse, and it essentially turned the WCAC into what it is because of how good DeMatha was with All-Americans year in and year out. And then the other
Are you familiar with the history with that, like how they came to become that powerhouse?
I mean, it was Morgan Wooten. You know, Morgan Wooten took over, I want to say, in the late 50s or early 60s at DeMatha, and, you know, immediately, you know, started running camps, getting the best players to come. And, you know, he was, I mean, like, I'm not exaggerating when I say year in and year out in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. He was having All-Americans, you know, almost every year. And I think that what ended up happening was a lot of the other schools that were in the, you know, the Washington Catholic Athletic Conference, when it was formed, were a little bit tired of him dominating the game and decided that they were going to put their efforts into basketball. And, you know, you can't leave out Bishop O'Connell's a great program, too. And Morgan's son, Joe, is the head coach at Bishop O'Connell, who just missed it. They lost to Blue Ridge by 2 yesterday, or they would be playing in this game. So, you know, it's between those 5 programs really stand out with their history and their success of the past, you know, 10 to 15 years. As Gongba gets the follow.
What year is he?
He is a junior. One of the many juniors. Nationally ranked big man. And Colby White with it here. He's going to go right. He's going to kick to the corner. And Brewer no good from deep. Knocked out of bounds.
I see a lot of kids get up shots, right? They get on the gun and they get up shots. But you saw Brewer go from one side to the other, sprint back into a shot. And that's a completely different kind of shot than just sitting on a gun. And it's something, you know, in the offseason for him. I'm not sure what his workouts look like, but they should be entailing that kind of intensity and that kind of action in terms of, being able to be fully prepared to make that shot.
Absolutely. 3 minutes left here in the third. Paul VI in control, 55-29 over Blue Ridge. And Harris Smith off the ball screen. Swings it.
4 out, 1 in, dribble drive. Just space them out and attack closeouts. They keep the game relatively simple in that way. But, I feel like in practice, a lot goes into that in terms of teaching guys, not just teaching them plays, but teaching them how to play. And I feel like that is the optimal way to coach, where you are giving guys a structure and letting them know.
100%. Instead of turning them into robots, you teach them how to play basketball.
Yeah.
And I think you see that on both these teams. I mean, I know Blue Ridge is a little bit outmatched this year, but Cade Lemke's done a great job as far as, developing his kids. And when his kids go on to college, they all are really successful. With Darius McGee at Liberty and, Amir Sims when he was at Clemson, Mamadi Diakite when he was at
Malik Johnson.
UVA, Malik Johnson at Canisius, excuse me.
Yeah.
He teaches his kids how to play, so when they move on to the next level, they're ready. As Cam Martin comes off the handoff here, a couple dribbles to the left, pulls up and knocks it down.
That's a real testament to the coaches, is how do your guys perform at that next level?
Yep.
Because sometimes you may not have a full team, but if you're really doing your job, you're preparing those guys who are going to go on to the next level.
And there really aren't two better in the state that do that than these two right here, and Glenn Farello and Cade Lemke, at least from the sheer number of players that they've put in college that have been successful. And
it's an excellent back cut right there by Martin. He's shown off the pull-up, but it's rare you see a high school guy show that level of intelligence on the basketball floor, where a defender turns their head and he just back cuts him. Timely pass as well.
And Harris Smith down the lane, counted plus the foul.
Turning into pickup defense right now. But
I mean, Harris Smith is so good. It's one of these guys that, the scouting report is going to read the same way every time, right? Sit on his left, force him right, make him finish right, make him into a jump shooter. And it's easy to write that down and say do that, and then it's so much harder to actually stop a guy like him. I saw him in the WCAC championship. He came off, he had a catch and a rip. And, I mean, when I tell you the defenders, like 2 help side defenders came and closed, and he somehow was able to split. And, I mean, their legs were touching. And I don't know how he was able to split it, but when he gets there, they move. And he's able to get downhill and finish like that.
A lot of it is his size.
Yes.
The kid's frame, he can get to where he wants to go to, because if you're there, he's going to physically move you out of the way.
Yes.
So,
it's one thing to say, hey, man, you got to stop him from going left, and then actually stand in front of him and stop him. As Colby White's off the mark there from deep, and, tough little spill there. It's going to stay here with
That's always
Blue
an
Ridge.
interesting one, when you're so wide open that when you don't expect it and you kind of throw off your own rhythm by hesitating, he takes that rhythm dribble. That's always a tough one as a shooter.
Yeah. Or it's like a finisher when you expect the contact and you don't get the contact.
Yep.
And it's going to be knocked out of bounds. It'll stay right here. Cameron Martin inbounding.
When you see a guard like Harris going on to Duke, what do you feel like is more valuable? His size as a guard or speed as a guard in translating to that next level?
With Harris, it's his size because his specialty is as a shooter.
Right.
If it were to be like when you look at another former PVI player who's at Duke right now, Jeremy Roach, that is speed because he's a ball in his hands kind of guy that goes and gets it. And then you had a guy like you where it was craft, But if you were 6 foot like Jeremy Roach, your craft would not have been as good as when you were 6'4".
Right.
So, it's kind of it's give or take depending on the type of player. And I mean, I think with Harris, the fact that he checks that box as he's got prototypical size as a 2-guard.
Yeah.
As a knockdown shooting 2-guard, he's not going to be a liability defensively. He's going to be able to rise up and make shots over smaller people. And he doesn't need a lot of space to get his shot off. Now, he's more athletic than you think, but, I mean, he doesn't have that lightning-quick first step.
Yeah. He's quick enough, but his size is the separator.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And Sean Harris-Smith.
He's just getting to his spots.
Yep. And off the mark there on the floater.
Do you feel like Duke still has the same, hold on the top-tier talent as they once had, or do you feel like that's come down just a notch?
And a charge taken there against Darren Harris. I still think when it comes to that top-tier talent, the brand of Duke is always going to be very hard to compete with. Just like the brand of Kentucky, when you've got a guy like John Cal there, the brand of UNC, no matter who's going to be there, they're always going to be able to recruit the best of the best. Now, the NIL is what's kind of throwing a wrench in when it comes to the other stuff, and then the transfer market. That's why you're seeing the parity of basketball being less and less each year as Camden Brewer nails that three. And we're down to 10 seconds here in the third quarter as Harris-Smith on the pull-up, no good. And Camden Brewer from half court can't get it to go. So at the end of 3, Paul the 6, 60, Blue Ridge 38. Take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we do. And we're back here. Start the fourth quarter. PVI 60, Blue Ridge 38. As the Panthers in control here.
Jack, I don't know if you saw, but at the end of that quarter, Coach Lemke got very animated, and so on a particular possession, and to be down 25 points and to still, as a coach, be showing that same fire as if it was a 2 or 3 point game. I mean, that speaks to the kind of competitor that Coach Lemke is and the standard that he holds his teams to.
Oh, 100%, as Martin with the follow. And, I mean, I think any good coach, right, will always, it doesn't matter what the score is. We're not going to, not play hard. We're not going to not execute. We're not going to give up type attitude. You don't want to play for a guy that's, we're down by 25, who cares? Always want to play for a coach that's like that. And you always want to play, I feel like I want to play for a coach that if I'm up 25 is going to be the same way.
He's better than me. My 7th grade team this year, we went down by 25. I sat down. I said, I've had enough.
We got a timeout here by PVI because despite the score, Glenn Ferrello's not happy with the last couple of possessions here for his Panther group. And we'll talk it all over here.
But as you were saying, with the wrench that NIL has thrown in, and the parity of college basketball with the transfer market. I'd love to hear your elaboration on those thoughts.
I mean, I think that it's, the different avenues that you can take to play basketball. How long players are playing college basketball now is another thing about it, right? So, I mean, if you're a mid-major program and you've got multiple fifth, sixth-year guys on your team, you're not afraid to go up against the best of the best, like, when it comes to that. Or you can build a team that has the right mix of this guy maybe didn't work out at this place for one reason and this guy didn't here, but together they're going to work out perfectly. And then when it comes to the NIL, I mean, I think that people think that, Duke is not, people are going to say no to Duke because they can get money somewhere else. Duke and them can come up with the money if they want to. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it's kind of going to be the equalizer. If you have, boosters, or you have people in the community that are going to be willing to put up money for a kid, to be able to have a little bit of spending money while he's there, it's going to be a little bit more enticing than just kind of going and, getting an education and playing basketball. So, you're going to be able to entice better kids. And when you look at something like Miami with the money that they've spent on some of their guys, right? And, that isn't always going to translate to, getting the best players and winning the most games. But, I mean, in the end, when you look at, I was at Cameron Indoor Stadium for the first time this year, and, walking in there, and I've been in better arenas than that, but you immediately feel the awe. Oh, my God, I'm here. I'm sitting here, and then we're streaming a game, and Coach K's sitting courtside, and I was like, I'd seen Coach K out many times on the AAU circuits, but it was a little bit different when I'm in his house, and he's sitting right there. It's the prestige of a program is always gonna say something, especially when it comes to those blue bloods. But nowadays kids nowadays don't care quite as much about it. But when it comes to Duke having that stronghold, they care about playing on ESPN, and Duke is on ESPN as much as anybody.
Yeah.
So it's and they care about who's going to put them in the pros, and as long as Duke keeps doing that, people are going to come. As Hammond down the lane with the floater, no good.
Last couple after the timeout, Blue Ridge came out with that full court press, was able to generate the turnover. And a lot of teams would mail it in, but as we're seeing, competing, you love to see it. But Hammond just about put the dagger in it.
Yep, he's having himself a day. He's been one of the more improved players on this PVI team.
A lot of quickness, has shown a real ability to get into that lane, showed nice touch on the floater, complementing that with a catch-and-shoot three ball. That's very promising for his future.
Absolutely, and we got a timeout here by Blue Ridge. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll be right back on the CBG Live Network. And here we go out of the timeout. 5:30 remaining here in this one. Ben Hammond.
Way to stay in front right here. Good ball pressure.
And stepping out of bounds.
Defensively, that point of attack is so important. You apply that ball pressure to the primary ball handler, it throws the whole offense. They swing, and he's standing out of bounds. And I think it starts right there at the point of attack.
Yeah. And, making the initiator of the offense uncomfortable is always going to be something that you need to do. Otherwise, they can just get into it too easily. As Martin downhill can't finish. And here's Deshaun Harris-Smith, Maryland Terrapin commit. And the fall away. Ooh, tough shot there by Darren Harris.
I was just about to say, if he caught that ball down there in the corner and been patient, he would have had a nice post touch. But if you're going to do that, you go right ahead.
Now, that's one of his patented moves, too. He's got great footwork to get it off, and then the size to shoot over top. I mean, they came down to both these teams were in one of our fall series, our CBG fall series earlier this year. And the shooting exhibition that Harris put on was, I was already pretty sold at that point. I was like, he might be the best shooter in the country. Like,
just because got size, the quick release.
Yeah, just because of how his feet work too. I mean, he's on the move and he's able to stop and square up immediately. No load on his shot, but it's still effortless. And they're gonna call that the other way.
Too strong for his own good.
Hey man, you can't try to bully the bully, you know.
But a lot of times judging shooters can be tough because a lot of shooting is the test of time. It's a matter of consistency. Anyone can come in and knock down 3-4 shots in a game, but are you doing that every game you play?
Yeah.
Are you doing that season after season?
Yep.
And so a lot of that is hard to judge in a small sample size.
Oh, 100%. And that's kind of what, like when it comes to evaluating talent, I mean, if I see a 6'6" guard that can play way above the rim, you know he can do that every single time.
Right.
When it comes to like watching a guy who scores it or shoots it, I mean, you got to be able to watch him 5-6 times before you really are able to start to get a read on him.
Now, at the same time, one thing I look at when I'm looking at shooters is their mentality and how that manifests is primarily confidence. And so if I see a guy, now sometimes it could just be straight delusion, guys just letting it fly who have no business.
Yep.
But when you see a guy who's unconscious and has that green light and he's letting it fly, even if he's missing, you're like, oh, he must have something special.
How closely are they guarded too? Because
right.
if they're off and they're still being guarded closely, that means that people know he could shoot. If they're missing and nobody's guarding them, there's a reason nobody's guarding them. They want you to shoot.
That's different at high school and the AAU, though.
Oh,
because high school, obviously, you know personnel. AAU, you just go out there and you're just playing against, strangers a lot of times.
Yep. And so that was it. When you were talking about, a prospect being a breakout guy in like high school versus AAU. I mean, I think that really the difference between it is like, I think that AAU is where you go to get seen, and high school is where you go to kind of get ready to play for college because it's going to be a more structured setting. It's got a lot more rules. You never know what you're going to run into in AAU, whether it's 6 fouls or, running clock or no running clock. Like, when you play in a high school game, especially one like this, they've got shot clocks and, you play with these certain rules and everybody's scouted each other and knows what's going on. And, you have to have your sets put in that they don't know are scouted and the sets put in that they do know are scouted and things like that. Where in AAU, you just go play.
I'll say I think AAU is more of an indication of a player's ceiling, and high school is more of an indication of a player's floor.
Okay, I like that. I mean, I would even say AAU is more of an indication of their raw talent.
Right.
And high school is more of an indication of, their IQ and like their ability to play within systems and things like that. And you need to have both to be able to play at the highest level. So, and up top, Isaiah Abraham can't throw it down. And Sundra gets it taken away by Semengo, and a travel is going to be called, saying that I think he stood up with it. So it's going to
Sundra had the height advantage down there, but sometimes just because you have a height advantage, if you don't have anything you're going to, it doesn't really do a lot of good. I think sometimes guys be better off, especially a guy like that, little thinner, a little bit more mobile. You better serve to step out just a few feet and face up.
Yep.
Give him a quick rip, give him a quick jab, and get to the cup.
And there's the inside finish from Gongba, and he's different in a guy like Sunder because he is the one that you're going to post up and get him as deep as possible where he can catch and finish there. And strong finish there by Colby White, another player to keep an eye on for this Blue Ridge team, and I think in a couple of years he's going to be mentioned with those Blue Ridge people we talked about earlier as Camden Brewer with the steal, and he hits the three, and another timeout with 3:19 left. PVI 70, Blue Ridge 53, and neither of these coaches are done coaching at this point.
No, blind to the scoreboard.
Yes,
completely.
Last game of the year, doesn't matter. They're gonna coach till the very end. Just like we will be filming till the very end here on the CBG Live Network. Up next, Petrie, we got a great game here between the number 2 seed St. Anne's Belfield Saints out of Charlottesville and the number 3 seed Catholic Crusaders out of Virginia Beach.
I'm excited for this one. I've had a chance to see both of these teams play. It's going to be a good one for sure.
Yes.
These teams, I think Stab may have a little bit more talent in my estimation, but from what I saw from Catholic, the connectedness and the intensity of which they play, they came to St. Chris and they got after it from the jump. I was very impressed.
Yeah, and I think another thing to keep in mind there, Stab, their starting 5 can go with the best of them.
Yeah.
I don't think that they really have the depth. Catholic can go 9-10 deep when it comes to it, right?
Yeah.
And they've got interchangeable pieces and things like that. So it'll be really interesting, but I'm really, really excited to watch that big man matchup between Vanderbilt commit Carter Lang and then the freshman sensation of Kosi Mbegiofor. Is that how you say it? Begiofor? Oh, it's very hard to say. But he is going to be something
might be on a first
special.
name basis with him.
Yes, he's just Kosi. He's going to be very special, and he really thrives defensively as a rim protector, a guy who challenges shots, and Carter Lang likes to get in there and muscle his way through, so it's kind of a perfect matchup to see who's going to win here in that one. But it's definitely going to be – I'm hoping it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great game. Can't wait to see that one. It's been a great day of basketball here all day. As Abraham off the mark there.
This is what you do, Jack.
Hey.
9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Getting it done.
Got here at 8 a.m. Going to be leaving by 11 p.m.
My bad. Didn't mean to sell you short.
And then tomorrow we got all the championships. Division 1 to Division 4 will start at 11, and then Division 1, that game will be at 5. So stay with us right here and up top, and there's Isaiah Abraham with the two-handed flush. And the block by Gongba.
As a guard right there, you have to know the rim protectors, the trees are up there, so that's a classic Steve Nash it. Keep that dribble alive, keep it rolling.
Got to do the Nash dribble. Bring it right back out, find yourself a shooter. And there's another block for Gongba. And from deep, that's no good. Fighting for the rebound, and what'd they call? Is it going to stay here at Blue Ridge? It's going to stay here at Blue Ridge. 2 minutes left in this one. Paul VI has this one here in the bag. But impressive first year for Blue Ridge in this Division I. And in a year where Division I has been as good as it's been probably in 5 or 6 years from top to bottom, for them to be able to get here to the Final Four in their first year, very impressive. And, it'll only be a couple of years before Lemke is, running down the big WCAC guys
Absolutely.
As Harris over to Hammond. Hammond rips it. Swings to Sundra. Sundra's going to get downhill, use that left hand and finish. Great body control. Avoid the shot blocker. And Semengo, a couple of pump fakes, but I think you see Coach Lemke over there not too happy with that because that's not really his game. Minute 20 left. And PVI empties the bench out here.
It's about what you expected?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, and that's no knock on Blue Ridge. I mean, this PVI team, I've been covering basketball in Virginia, for like 7 or 8 years now. And this is outside of maybe some of those Oak Hill teams that were there in, the 2015, 2016, 2018. Like, PVI is maybe better than those teams or right up there with them as the best team I've seen in Virginia. As far as a, organization, playing within one of the Virginia VISAAs or VHSLs, this is the best team I've seen.
Let me ask, them or John Marshall?
So they played in our fall series. John Marshall did not have the Jason Rivera kid at the time. But PVI beat him by about 15.
Rivera might be worth about 15 though.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that the depth of PVI is the difference. I think the starting fives are very similar in talent.
Yeah.
But PVI can bring off, especially when Smith's healthy, they can bring off 4 or 5 Division I kids off the bench, and just play you in waves if they want to. But by the way, hats off to Ty White and that John Marshall group for an incredible season they had. Hats off to Cade Lemke and his Blue Ridge team. Incredible season for them, too. And PVI will be moving on to play in the state championship. Who will they play? This next game will decide. We got number 2, St. Anne's Belfield, taking on number 3, Catholic. Don't go anywhere. This might be the best game of the entire day. So stay with us here on the CBG Live Network.